Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. And as always, we give peace and salutations unto the elect. Now, we know the scriptures say Esau is the end of the world. All right, you get it in the GNT, 2nd Esdras 6 and 9. Baba Kasha, somebody posted on the comment board. I don't have much time, but it says Esau represents the end of this age, and Jacob represents the beginning of the kingdom that comes after it. All right, when you tie that with biblical prophecy, we know that Babylon the Great would be the final rulership of the heathen nations. So by default, we know that Esau, Edom controls, all right, this modern day Babylon the Great, which is America. All right, not only do they control that, but they control this beast system, all right, that would take root in the earth. And it fulfills the blessing that was given unto them by Isaac, that they would have the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above, meaning they will control all of the resources. And he also blessed them with a sword. All right, this is why Esau, Edom's military, all right, is the greatest military this earth has ever seen, and it seems impossible that he will ever fall. But we're living in the times where that sword is being divided. Egyptian is against Egyptian. They're all over the place. And as you can see, the worm is spread under them, meaning moral decay. And they're on their way out. Now, I have here in the book of Numbers, the 24th chapter, because I asked ChatGPT a very interesting question. I'm going to share the answers that's concerning the Amalekites. All right, now we know the Amalekites are Edomites. All right, but when you read here in Numbers, the 24th chapter, all right, there was a particular heathen priest who was set to put a stumbling block and a curse on Israel, but he received a vision that ultimately Israel would win in the end. All right, and when you start at Numbers 24, all right, I'll just start at 17, which this is speaking of Yahweh Shai. I read it in the NLT. It says, I see him, but not here and now, meaning Yahweh Shai. I perceive him, but far in a distant future. A star will rise from Jacob, which is Yahweh Shai, and a scepter will emerge from Israel. It will crush the forehead of Moab's people, cracking the skull of the people of Sheth, all right, meaning the heathen nations, all right, that would eventually, all right, because eventually we know through Noah, all right, we know from Adam through Seth, eventually you would have Noah, who had Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and from that 18 nations came, and only one of those nations were chosen, the Israelites. It says Edom will be taken over, and Seir, its enemy, will be conquered while Israel marches on in triumph. This is a prophecy that has not come to pass yet. A ruler will rise in Jacob who will destroy the survivors, all right, of Okay, and that's speaking of Yahweh Shai. Okay, and these are all prophecies, and we know, as the scriptures say, the scripture can't be broken. All right, but then something else is said. Then Balaam looked over towards the people of Amalek and delivered this message. Amalek was the greatest of the nations, but his destiny is destruction. Now, who's Amalek? Let's look up Amalek. All right, and we have tied them, all right, to the people who are claiming to be the chosen people. All right, we have the documents, and it's all the spirit. All right, Malak. Okay. It says the son of Eliphaz by his concubine Timnah, grandson of Esau. So the Amalekites are Edomites. But as you see here, it says Amalek. Let's read it in the King James. Amalek was the first of the nations. Now this word first, all right, this word first, Ra'ashiath, meaning the beginning, the best, the chief. Okay, and when you go into the root word Ra'ash, head, top, summit, upper part, chief, total, sum, head, height, head of man. Okay, head, front, beginning. Okay, so Esau, Edom will be at the front. He would be the mightiest nation, as we read in the NLT. Let's read it again. Amalek was the greatest of the nations. Now, there's no there's no history we can go into where Amalek was the greatest nation. That's being fulfilled in this time. Okay? And Amalek was also the first nation to attack us when we were exodus out of Egypt. They attacked the elderly and the children, man. And the Lord told Moses to remember that. Remember what Amalek did. Okay, in the book of Deuteronomy, the 25th chapter, I believe. Okay, as a matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Deuteronomy, the 25th chapter. And I believe the 17th verse, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Deuteronomy 25 and 17. Remember what the Amalekites did to you as you came from Egypt. They attacked you when you were exhausted and weary, and they struck down those who were straggling behind. They had no fear of the Most High. Therefore, when the Lord gives you rest from all your enemies in the land that he has given you as a special possession, you must destroy the Amalekites and erase their memory from under heaven. All right. And over the years, all right, a particular Israelite King David tried it. All right. Before that, the Lord ordered King Saul to do it. But we know that particular Amalekites scurried away. That hasn't been fulfilled yet. It's going to be fulfilled, okay, as we read in the book of Obadiah real quick, right? The book of Obadiah, and you'll understand what I'm getting at in just a minute. Obadiah verse 18, it says, "In the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame." All right, that's all 12 tribes being brought back together, the throne of David. "And the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau." So it's going to be fulfilled under the tabernacle of David once Yahweh Shai establishes the throne of David. Okay? So again, Numbers 24, all right, says what? All right, Amalek will be the greatest of the nations, but his destiny is destruction, man. So Amalek in the latter days will be at the forefront. He will be the greatest, and it's very interesting that he was the child of a concubine. All right. Children of concubines aren't supposed to get the inheritance. All right. On the level of a child of a free woman. So this is why you see the American Edomites, all right, pissed off with the so-called Jews, because ultimately they've hoarded the blessing to themselves. And this is like, how, nigga? All right. But that's another lesson for another time. Let's get the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter, real quick. All right, let's get Revelation, the 6th chapter, to tie this all to Amalek. Revelation 6 and 4. "And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword." Now we know Esau, Edom, came out red. All right, we know that this beast system is known as the scarlet colored beast. We know that this system as well is known as the red dragon. Okay, how do we know that? Let's get Revelation, the 12th chapter. Okay, and let's start at the 3rd verse. "The red dragon, Satan." Okay, and this is the children of Satan. Remember, 2 Thessalonians tells you that this man will come to do the bidding of Satan. Right? Revelation 12 and 3. "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon." Okay, this is the same dragon that's spoken about in the various, in the next chapter. Okay, speaking of what? The Western Roman Empire. Okay, why is it red? Because they are Edomites. The Edomites ran that empire. The Edomites run the revival of it. They run this beast system, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, great red dragon. Now, this being the Edomites, all right, and the Amalekites are Edomites as well, okay, because as you read this, all right, having 7 heads and 10 horns, we always break that down. I don't have time to go fully into it. If you need the understanding, ask. We have various videos on it, okay. "In his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth." Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, all right, were cast to the earth. All right, they were under the Roman authority. All right, they were a vassal to the Roman Empire. Okay, they were in slavery. Right, it says, "And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered and to devour her child as soon as it was born." All right, And who's that talking about? What history is that going into? Okay, you can go to the book of Matthew, the 2nd chapter. That's speaking of King Herod. Okay, now who's King Herod? Okay, who's Herod? Give me 1 second. Herod, heroic, the name of a royal family that flourished among the Jews in the time of Yahushua and the apostles. All right, Herod the Great was son of Antipater the Idumean. Okay, and I typed in, was Antipater an Edomite? Yes, Antipater, the father of Herod, was an Edomite. All right, in particular, they were Amalekites. All right, when you go into it. All right, so as you can keep reading that. Okay, Herod was an Edomite. So when you read about this great red dragon, okay, that stood before the woman to devour her child, that history can be read in Matthew, the 2nd chapter. So the Edomites, the Amalekites, all right, are at the forefront of this beast system having 7 heads and 10 horns. And when you do the cross reference, okay, that's the very system that's going to be ruling in end time prophecy. Okay, I mean, all you had to do is just go into prophecy, man. Okay, Revelation 17:3. So he carried me away in the spirit in the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And as you read, this is the very system that will be in rulership in end-time prophecy. Okay, so as the scriptures say, Amalek will be the greatest of the nations. It's speaking of the Edomites that rule this beast system. Okay, and the woman that sits on the scarlet-colored beast is speaking of Babylon the Great. All right. And the scarlet colored beast is this beast system. Scarlet is a derivative of red. Okay, so it's all the same thing, man. Okay, now what I did, all right, because the Amalekites are at the forefront of this. When you go into who's at the forefront, who runs Hollywood, who runs Monsanto, who runs the banks, okay, it's the Amalekites, man, the small hats. They are at the forefront of all of this. The Edomites are in rulership, but the top nation or tribe amongst the Edomites are the Amalekites that are ruling. So what I did, okay, what I did here, let's go here, is I typed in, what would the world be like if the biblical Amalekites were ruling? What would they be doing in the earth? Okay, it said that's a really interesting speculative question. The Amalekites are described in the Bible as a nomadic tribe, often portrayed as bitter enemies of Israel. Okay, because when you go into the book of Genesis, the seed of the serpent, which will be fulfilled in Cain, and then Esau would have war with the seed of the woman, which what? The seed of the woman is the Israelites, the chosen lineage. Okay, it says, so this is why there's always so much friction between the two, because it fulfills prophecy. It says they're depicted as ruthless, attacking Israelites from behind during their exodus. Okay, and are frequently associated with violence, cruelty, and opposition to God's will. So if we imagine a world where the biblical Amalekites were in power, which they are in power, okay, pursuant to the scriptures, we know Esau is the end of the world. Amalekites are Edomites, and we just read the prophecy, all right, where that heathen got a vision, and he said Amalek would be the greatest of the nations, but his end would be his destruction. So Amalek is at the forefront of Esau's blessing. It says, so if we were to imagine a world where the biblical Amalekites were in power, it would likely reflect the qualities they were known for in the scripture. Though, of course, this is deeply symbolic and theological, not historical and ethnographic. Here's a possible scenario. Oppression and ruthlessness. The Amalekites might rule through fear, conquest, and domination. And remember, they have the sword. The scriptures, the blessing that Esau was given, it said, by thy sword shall thou live. So they have a beast system that allows them, all right, to wage war, to use economic hitman, and to just be what? Oppressive, man. Conquering lands. All right, even the Balfour Declaration, which gave them rights, so-called rights to certain portions of the land of Israel, it was through war. Okay, and look what's going on today. Look what's happening today to the Palestinians. It says societies could be more, all right, militaristic Societies would be more militaristic and oppressive, especially towards those considered weak or other. Now, what did we just read in Revelation 6 and 9? This again, let's go to it real quick so I don't want to mangle it. And I'm playing with just a little bit of time, but I just wanted to get this out of the way. Been having this for a minute. Revelation 6 and 4, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. There was slaughter everywhere. It says, look, in the NLT, there appeared another horse. Horse represents power, and its rider, the Edomites, was given a mighty sword and authority to take peace from the earth, and there was war and slaughter everywhere. Look at the earth. Why? Because the Amalekites are ruling, the Edomites are ruling. It says war-driven economy and culture. A constant state of war or conflict could be the norm. Look at look at the world around you. Everything is war, everything is scandals, everything is just complete madness. Their culture might glorify raiding, looting, and the destruction of rival groups. Even using propaganda to make people out to be against them, and then justifying putting the sword to them, man. Demonizing them. More moral reversal. If they oppose God values, they might promote ideologies contrary to justice, mercy, and humility. You see that? The scriptures say, he that standeth for righteousness and turn from evil maketh himself a prey, because the morals have been reversed under Esau's rulership, man. Moral decay, decadence. Okay, which that happened in the ancient Western Roman Empire before it fell. Compassion or vulnerability could be considered a weakness, man. Okay, and when you get the book of Romans, the first chapter, Jake got into that mindset when they were in the Roman Empire, right? What were they doing? Okay, Romans 1 and 28. Even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do the things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whispers, backbiters, haters of God, despisers, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things. All right, disobedient to parents. This came from what? Being mingled among the heathen, and at this point they were in the Roman Empire. Without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection. Okay, heartless, as it says in the NLT, implacable, unmerciful. See that? That's the culture that Esau, Edom breeds, man. And our people have gotten into it and have now cultivated themselves and their children with these ideologies and this mindset. But all of the people, okay, this is the richest country in the world, so-called, but everybody's mind is set on self-destruct. Okay, waging war with one another, scandals, using social media to make the another person look bad. Okay, lies. Okay, people, the women selling their bodies on OnlyFans for monetary gain. It's just a moral reverse. Compassion or vulnerability will be considered a weakness. Okay, exactly. People are ran over, man, used and abused. It says hostility towards spiritual principles. Since the Amalekites are portrayed as being enemies of Israel and God's covenant, a world under the Amalekite rule might suppress spiritual and moral traditions rooted in Abrahamic faiths. Okay, and they wage war against the Israelites. They wage war against the Ishmaelites, right? Which the two are different, but as you can see, the Abrahamic faith, the children of Ishmael, okay, come from Abraham, okay, and Esau, Edom hates God. He hates people who stand for a God. All right, religious persecution might be common. Okay, it says short-term gain over long-term good. The Amalekites' raid and pillage style might translate into a global system focused on immediate gain with no thought for sustainability, justice, or common good. This is the world we live in. See that? This is the world we live in. Okay. And I forgot I had this as well. I forget what I typed in, but it says weaponized technology and surveillance. The Amalekite mentality wouldn't just conquer lands, it would invade minds. Tech would be used to manipulate thought, behavior, and loyalty, not empower humanity. Surveillance would be total, not for safety, but for control. Tower of Babel. Think spiritual warfare meets psychological operations, man. And everywhere you look, you see psychological operations being waged, man. Everything is a psyop. Okay? It says erosion of identity and meaning. Amalek is said to have attacked stragglers, meaning the elderly and the young, when we were leaving out of Egypt. Those disconnected from the source, faith, community, strength. So under Amalek rule, the world might be geared to disconnect people from their families, okay, from the roots of their heritage, from purpose or transcendence. This is where we are now. Okay, the culture here it doesn't breed family. It doesn't breed people, all right, knowing who they really are. Is what? Rooted in pseudoscience. Okay, what does the book of 2 Thessalonians say? Again, we got to get it. We quoted it, but now we got to read it. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. NLT, this man will come to do the work of Satan with counterfeit power, signs, and miracles. And again, this word, lying, is pseudos. That's what runs this world, pseudoscience. That's what was used to justify the jab. Pseudoscience, all of the things that run and control people's thought is what? A lie. Conscience and intentional falsehood. In a broad sense, whatever is not what it seems to be. Perverse, impious, deceitful precepts. He even uses the Bible to manipulate and wage war on the mind. Everything is a war on people's minds, man. Okay? Everything from fragmented culture, faith, gender, tradition, okay? Not out of liberation, but disintegration, to destroy people, man. Okay? The woke culture, the they, them. Okay, he's pretty much just a complete demon, man. Okay, it says perpetual war or crisis. Amalek didn't just attack, all right, they ambushed when people were tired. Okay, they wear people out and then they attack. A modern Amalekite regime might create endless wars, fear, distractions, or societal fatigue to keep people too weak or distracted to resist. Okay, they put all kind of mess in the food and the waters. Okay, they give you free access to PORN. This weakens nations. Okay, this dumbs nations down. Fluoride in the water, just like it was lead in the water in Rome. Okay, all kind of entertainment that wages war against the mind. Okay, bread and circuses. It says crises wouldn't be solved, they'd be manufactured or prolonged to maintain control. And you're seeing all of these things happen now, man. So in conclusion, who's ruling the world? Okay, the Amalekites are ruling the world, man. Okay. And again, go back to Numbers 24. In his vision, he said Amalek was the greatest of the nations. Okay? So Lucky, I had to pause it real quick. But again, as he sees this vision of Yahweh Shai taking down Edom, okay, he immediately brings up Amalek being the greatest of the nations. But its destiny is destruction, man. So Amalek controls the world right now. Okay? Amalek is the chief of the nations right now. And we just asked ChatGPT, what would the world be like if Amalek ruled? And it ties into everything we're looking at to a T. how they would use technology, how they would wage wars, how they would use psychological operations to destroy the mind, how the culture will be immoral and godless. You see that? So, look, we got the truth, brother, and we have nothing to be ashamed of, man. As this world is getting ready to try to make us look crazy, look at this world. Look at these people. This is a sick world, man. Where you have a guy like this who's going to be the vice president, right? But when you go into this dude's history, hold up. When you go into his history, right? Hold on, let's play this.
Hi there, this is Sharon Duffing at the Minnesota State Capitol. It is Friday, April 4th, 2025, and I'm here to double check on what everybody's been talking about on social media is this plaque in honor of our governor, Tim Walz, and it is from people that are supportive of his efforts. And there it is.
Baphomet, right Satan. Here. It's the children of Satan.
Right here in the East Hall, lower level. And it reads, the Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers thanks Governor Tim Walz for not standing in the way of spreading Satanism in the state capitol building. Satan has a special place for you. And that's what it says.
Yeah, Tim Walz, but look at what type of shit he's into. All right, we got the article to prove it. All right, Tim Walz, a local resident of West Point, Nebraska, was rushed to the West Point General Hospital last night after reportedly over-ingesting horse semen. Okay? And you can keep reading, you can look up the article for yourself, but this nigga was going to be the vice president.